Be seated, please. Could one, Counselor, could you approach the bench a second? No, I don't want you up here. That'd be ex parte here.
State calls Samantha Duffy. Are we ready?
Just a moment.
Yeah.
It's going to be.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm your testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
What is your first name and your last name, please?
Samantha Duffy,
How do you spell your last name?
Duffy,
And how old are you?
33.
Where do you currently live?
I live in Everett, Washington.
Are you currently working?
Yes.
Where do you work?
I work for a company, TalentWise,
How long have you had that job?
a little over a year.
At some point, did you know an individual named David Pietz?
I did.
Is he present in court today?
Yes.
Can you just point to him?
Your Honor, we'll stipulate that she can point out David.
Thank you.
And when did you know the defendant?
When I worked at Chang's,
What was Chang's?
it was a restaurant in Everett.
What time period do you recall you working at Chang's?
Well, I worked there from 97 until 2009.
And what time period during then, or let me first ask you, how did you know the defendant through working at Chang's?
He worked at the Ballet's in the same parking lot as Chang's.
And is that the Bally's gym?
Yes.
So was it sort of a little strip mall area, or can you describe that?
It was a complex. There was a grocery store, the gym, our restaurant, there was a bar, there was a pharmacy. There was quite a few things.
And how is it that you got to know him when you were at Chang's and he was at Bally's?
He came over for lunch.
What was your job at Chang's?
I was an assistant manager, and I was also a server.
Do you know what time period it was that you knew the defendant when he would come for lunch?
I think it was in 2003.
Would you just see him as a customer? Would you chat with him? Tell us about your relationship with him at Chang's.
Yeah, he came in. He was very friendly. Just passing by a conversation. How was your day? How's work? That type of thing.
And how old would you have been when you worked at Chang's?
Oh,
I guess
that
when
time
you-
period?
Well, when you knew the defendant. when you worked at
23.
Chang's. Okay. Was he older than you?
Yes.
Okay. How often would you see him come in for lunch?
Once a week.
He was one of the regular customers then?
Yeah.
Did he seem to know other staff who worked there as well?
Sure, we all did. We all said hi to him. Some of us would sit and talk to him for a little while, see how his day was.
Did you ever have occasion to go out with coworkers from Chang's after work?
Yes.
How often would you do that?
With my coworkers, maybe like once a month.
And was there ever an occasion or occasions where the defendant would either show up or join those of you going out from Chang's?
When I went out with him, it was one time.
Do you remember the occasion that caused that to happen?
I guess I don't understand.
I'm sorry, maybe I should have phrased it better. Where did you go on that particular occasion?
That night we went to a bar. I think it was Foxy's.
And who were you going out with?
Some friends from work. I can't exactly remember who was all there that night.
Did the defendant go with you, or did you end up meeting him later?
As I remember, he met up with us later.
Was that a planned thing, or did he just happen to be there?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Did he join those of you from Chang's?
Yes.
How long or what time were you at the bar that night?
It was after work. We closed at 9. I'm sure we were there by 10.
How late did you stay there that night?
I don't remember that night, but it was late, probably towards the end of the, last call time.
Were you drinking that night?
Yes.
Did everybody drink that night?
As I remember, yes.
And what happened when you left the bar?
I got a ride home from Dave.
Why was that?
I think that the arrangement was he had to go that way anyways to get home on the way, but he came up after he dropped me off to my place.
So did you have your own car or did you need a ride home?
I think that I needed a ride home that night, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And I'm sorry, you said he came up to your place after dropping you off? And what happened at your place?
We had sex.
And that the only time that it happened?
Yes,
And I take it that was not planned, it was just something that happened?
that's correct.
Did he stay the night or did he leave?
I think he left shortly after.
Now, were you aware at this time if he was married or not?
I was not.
Did you observe whether he had a wedding ring on?
I didn't pay attention.
Did you later learn he was married?
Quite a bit later, but yes.
Did it ever happen again after that one night?
No, I did not.
Did he continue to come into Bally's after your one-night stand?
Into Chang's?
I'm sorry, into Chang's when he was still working at Bally's?
Yeah.
How long did that continue after this happened between the two of you?
To the best of my knowledge, maybe a few months to 6 months. I can't remember for sure.
At some point, did you learn he had left Bally's?
I did.
And how close in time to him leaving Bally's do you think your one-night stand with him happened?
A few months to 6. I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I have nothing else for you, Ms. Duffy.
Ms. Duffy, my name is David Allen. I represent David Pietz. I think you described this one night. Let me start it over. You described your sexual relationship with David in a statement as a one-night stand. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's a pretty accurate representation of what took place, right?
Correct.
And I understand before this happened, you two were sort of casual friends when he came over to Chang's and you were working there. Is that right?
Correct.
And after this happened, you were also casual friends at Chang's, right?
Correct.
So both of you treated this in a mature way, right?
Correct.
Nobody was angry?
Not to my knowledge.
Nobody had any expectations it was going to go any farther?
No.
You didn't have any idea that this would happen before it happened that evening, did you?
No, I did not.
As far as you know, David didn't have any ideas that it was going to happen before that evening.
As far as I know.
There wasn't any talk about that beforehand, about any plans or anything like that.
No.
Both of you had drunk quite a bit when you went out that evening, didn't you?
To my knowledge, yes. Myself, definitely.
Okay. You invited them up, I take it. Nobody forced themselves on either one, right?
No.
Nobody had to talk either one into this, right?
No.
It's just something that happened, right?
You want to change the phrasing so we have a clear record?
Sorry about that.
At the end of each of those was right, and to both of those questions, she said no.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Your Honor. So nobody forced themselves on anybody, correct?
Correct.
And nobody, I forget where.
Ask it.
And I appreciate you pointing it out, Your Honor. Thank you. So it was a completely consensual one-time affair, right?
Correct.
And no hard feelings afterwards, right?
That's correct.
And at the time, I think you said you were 23?
Yes.
You said David was older, but he wasn't a lot older than you, was he?
I thought about 5 years, but I'm not 100% sure.
If I were to tell you that he might have been 3 years older than you were at that time, would that seem to be different from your observations and memories?
No, that could be correct.
Okay. And he wasn't your employer or anything like that, was he?
No, he was not.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Anything else from the state? No. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm your testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Be seated.
Tell us your name and spell your last name, please.
Julie Hansen Freeman, last name is Hansen hyphen Freeman, Freeman.
And where do you live?
Lake Stevens.
How long have you lived in that area?
About 6 months.
Okay. And where did you live before that?
Marysville.
Did you ever work at a restaurant called Chang's in Everett?
Yes.
Do you remember the years that you worked there?
God, not really.
Okay. Do you remember working there in 2003?
Yes.
And at that time, did you meet the defendant, David Pietz?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you know him? How did you meet him at Chang's?
From him coming to lunch at our restaurant.
Okay. What was your position there?
I was a general manager.
We've had testimony that the Bally's gym was in the same general area, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So would you see him at the lunch hour typically?
Whatever time he had lunch. Yeah.
Whenever he came over?
Mhm.
Okay. Occasionally, did you and he and a couple other people go out for drinks?
Correct.
Okay, was there a regular night that you would do that?
Thursdays.
All right, and who was it? It was you and the defendant and who else?
A couple of my employees, Katie and George.
And where would you go? Same place every time?
No.
Would you, when would you go? Like after work?
Correct.
Okay. And you're not married now, right?
No.
You were married at the time, is that right?
Correct.
You do the
And-
same thing they do.
Oh, sorry.
Right? No.
You were married at the time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Was he married at the time?
Yes.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention to one night in particular where there was some physical contact. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and tell us about that. Do you remember where that happened?
At a bar in 128th.
Okay, and who did it involve?
Me and Katie and Dave.
Okay, and just tell us what happened.
It was just the three of us kissing,
Okay, and was that on the dance floor or at the bar? Or?
just at the bar.
Okay. And so when you say the three of you, I hate to be specific.
All together.
Okay. You were kissing Katie.
Mm-hmm.
Katie was kissing you. Yes?
All three at the same time.
All three at the same time.
Mhm.
Okay. How long did that go on for?
Not that long.
Okay. Was it sort of an experimentation thing? Is that what you told the police?
That time of my life, yes.
Okay, no, understood. Now, the defendant, when he would leave, would he typically leave about the same time that you did?
Not always. He'd usually leave before us
Okay. And why was that?
because he needed to get home to his wife.
Okay. And did he make any comments about going home to his wife after drinking?
He didn't like drinking a lot because she was a recovering alcoholic.
Okay. And what was it about drinking that was the problem?
The smell of it, she didn't like the smell of it because she didn't like him drinking.
Okay. And did he say what the consequence of that would be?
Just arguing about it.
Okay. Now, you, I think, indicated this morning when we talked, and I shared with defense counsel that you did not believe that the defendant ever asked you to have sex with him. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, do you remember telling Detective Anderson on February 16th of 2006 that the defendant had propositioned you, but you said no because you were married?
That is not what happened. He was very confused in his statements when he was talking to me on the phone.
Okay.
So it was very not, I mean, he told me a lot of stuff, like I told you this morning, that he shouldn't have been telling me.
Okay. So far as any sort of physical contact, it just was the kisses at the club?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have anything else.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hansen Freeman. So it sounds like the encounter that you're describing with Mr. Pietz and Katie was the other person? Is that right?
Correct, yes,
You guys were all out at a bar drinking,
yes.
and was there some dancing going on?
No, we were just playing darts and drinking.
Okay. And the kissing was consensual between the three of you?
Correct,
Kind of just goofing around drunk?
correct.
And there was no further sexual contact of any kind between you and Mr. Pietz?
No,
And he didn't invite you anywhere to go have sex or proposition you or
No.
anything like that? And it sounds like there was some kind of confusion. The detective had originally written in some reports that Mr. Pietz had propositioned you for sex. What was the confusion on the phone with the detective?
the detective wasn't, it didn't seem like I called him, so he didn't seem like he knew what, and when they came to, okay, let me finish. When he talked to me on the phone, he had asked me a bunch of questions, and I told him no, that wasn't what happened, and he kept asking me the same question, and I kept telling him no.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was reading somebody else's notes or what was going on, but that never happened.
Did it seem like the detective was perhaps trying to get you to say that Mr. Pietz had propositioned you or had engaged in some kind of sexual?
Speculation.
She can testify as to what the detective was asking her about.
She cannot testify as what's in the detective's mind. She can certainly testify as to what he said, what his demeanor was, what questions he asked.
Can you tell us what questions the detective asked you?
That was a long time ago. I can't remember all those questions.
Can you tell us what his demeanor was when he was asking you about sexual contact with the defendant?
He just asked me if I had sex with him or if he propositioned me, and I said no. And then he asked me again, and then he's like, so you did? And I said, no, I didn't.
Okay. So even though you had told him a couple of times, he continued to ask you.
Correct.
And you indicated that Mr. Pietz would actually leave early because he needed to get home to his wife.
Correct.
Mr. Pietz never discussed any other problems he was having with his wife, did he?
Yes.
He did.
Briefly. I mean, it was basically just saying that they were arguing or something like that. Nothing saying anything about anything else.
Okay. Well, didn't Mr. Pietz always have positive things to say about his wife?
We rarely talked about his wife. Basically, our conversations outside as friends and with our friends was work, and it was basically a Thursday night for all of us to, like, be out without our spouses and to just have a break.
Okay. Didn't you tell the detective back in 2006, though, that Mr. Pietz always had positive things to say about his wife?
I never heard anything basically about his wife. Anything that I did was pretty positive. How beautiful she was or stuff like that.
I don't have any other questions, John.
Anything else, Ms. Day?
Freeman, when
Yes.
he talked about arguing with his wife, did he say what the arguments were about?
Just about him drinking.
Thank you. I have nothing else.
Can you step down?
Thank you.
Sorry, the state calls Renee Stewart.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm your testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
Can you tell us your name and spell your first and last name, please?
It's Renee Stewart, Renee Stewart.
And where do you live?
LaConner.
And how long have you lived in the LaConner area?
5.5 years,
Okay. Do you work?
somewhat.
Okay. What sort of work do you do when you work?
Cleaning,
Okay. Did you live in the Seattle area at one time?
yes.
Okay. And when was that approximately?
Well, I lived in Seattle like 5.5 years ago, but before that I lived in Everett.
In Everett? Okay. When you lived in Everett, did you work out at a gym there?
Yes.
And in the course of that, did you ever meet the defendant, David Pietz?
Yes,
Okay. What was you weren't working at the gym, right? You just worked
Correct.
out there?
correct.
How did you come to meet him?
Well, just from working out so often, and then he would end up coming over and talking, and
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that when he approached you. First of all, was that a welcome approach to you?
it was a friendly approach, but it got really disruptive to my routine because I was trying to be there to work out.
And did you wear headphones?
Yeah, all the time because
Okay.
I didn't want to be interrupted. I thought people would get the hint.
Okay. So when he came over to talk to you, what sorts of things would he talk to you about or tell you?
In the beginning, it was just like miscellaneous idle chatter, just regular stuff. But, we started hanging out for a very short amount of time, and then they got a little bit different.
Okay, how did it change?
They got to be more of like a sexual type of, I don't know if like attention or just like kind of just trying to drop hints about things. And
Can you think of some things that he said to you that made you think that?
well, he had mentioned how stuff like that he thought I was a perfect girl, and that he wanted to do the threesome thing. He was hoping that I would be part of that.
And what's a threesome?
3 people having sex?
Okay. Were you interested in that with him?
No.
At some point, I think you said you hung out with him a little bit. Did you ever go out to clubs with him and other people?
Yes.
Okay, and who were the other people that were involved? You don't have to name them, but were they people from the gym or?
People from the gym.
Okay. And how was it that you came to know people from the gym just from working out there?
Well, just when you're kind of a permanent fixture, you get to kind of be social or whatever. And I honestly think that Dave was kind of the one who introduced me to them. Yeah,
Okay. So how big a group was it?
it was a small group, or at least I remember just a couple of them.
Okay. Did he ever talk to you about his wife?
Mm-hmm.
And what did he tell you about her?
Several things that she was in AA and he thought it was ridiculous and that she was doing it just to get attention, that she wasn't really an alcoholic, and that, I guess that's kind of the main thing. And then, I don't remember what else.
Okay. Did he talk about whether she liked to do the club scene?
I recall that she didn't, that wasn't her thing, that she didn't feel comfortable going to clubs.
Okay. Did he talk to you about her sexual practices, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it?
Yes, that he was trying to convince her to do a threesome, but she didn't want to.
Okay. And did he talk to you about how she would be in clubs or what he wanted her to be like in clubs?
He wanted her to loosen up because she was kind of, I guess, stiff and tense.
Did you ever go out to a club in that group where she was present?
Yes,
Okay. And did you know her name?
Nikki.
Nikki?
Pietz.
Did you know her outside of that context at all?
Well, I chatted with her a couple times at the gym because she was working there. I don't remember how long she was, but it was fairly new.
But you weren't good friends or anything?
No.
But you knew her?
Yeah.
How would you describe her?
Just a sweet girl. Just, always bubbly and had a smile for everyone. Just
And how would you describe her looks and how she dressed?
She was modest. She just, sweet girl. She dressed in a nice manner, didn't dress overly provocative or anything like that.
Now, how many times, if you can remember, did you go out with this group to clubs?
I don't remember how many times, but I can remember of at least 3.
3 separate occasions? And where were they located for the most part?
Medusa
Okay.
in Seattle, club in
And
Seattle.
is that in the Belltown area?
Yes,
Do you know if that club still exists?
it does not.
Okay. Describe the Club Medusa. What was it like?
Well, it was like a dance club, just a regular area, and then it had the VIP section.
Was it loud?
Yeah. Loud dance club.
Okay. And what was the VIP section? What did that look like?
Originally it was an area that was closed off, you had to have permission to go in, and originally it had like a pool table in the middle and a separate bar.
So it was was it a separate room or?
Yes.
Okay. What was it divided by from the main club? Do you remember?
I just remember walking through the velvet curtains.
Okay. Do you know what it took to get into the VIP club?
I think you just had to know the right people. And, yeah.
Okay. Now, the first time that you went out to the Medusa with this group, was there a discussion of the use of any kind of drug?
There wasn't the first time. There was, we discussed it like the following week when we were talking about going out again.
Okay. And what drug was discussed?
Ecstasy.
Okay. Were you familiar with ecstasy? Had you ever used it before?
I had never used it, and I was terrified of it. And
Okay. Did you use it since in that
Yes.
setting? Can you tell us a little bit about what is the purpose of taking E when you're at a club?
It loosens your inhibitions. It makes you more prone to intimacy.
Okay. Was that your experience of it as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when the defendant had talked to you about wanting to loosen up Nikki, did he ever talk to you about that in the context of using ecstasy?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that he would put it in her Red Bull, like when he went to get a drink, and he was just trying to loosen her up to get her to do a threesome.
Okay. Now, when you went out, let's say the first night, was Nikki there?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And do you remember, you talked about a Red Bull, is that a non-alcoholic drink?
Correct.
Did she drink at all while you were
No,
there?
she did not. She was sober.
Okay. Anything unusual happened the first night, or was it just a
Just a regular night out.
group night out?
Yeah.
Okay. How about the second night? Do you remember about how long after that was?
I think it was the next week, the next weekend.
Okay. And at that time, was ecstasy discussed?
It was discussed before, and then we all took it.
Okay.
Except for Nikki wasn't going to.
Okay. When did you discuss it before? Like before you went to the club, or at the gym, or?
At the club. I mean, at the gym before going to the club.
Okay, talked about getting some to have.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And what form did it come in?
A pill?
Okay. And so was it just something that if you were just going to take it, you would take it just like a pill?
Yes.
Like an aspirin?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that second night at the club, at Club Medusa, can you tell us what happened with regard to Nikki? When you first were there, was she drinking a Red Bull again?
She had Red Bulls, yeah.
Okay.
That was her drink. For the
Okay,
night.
you never saw her drink anything but that?
Correct.
Okay. Had you talked to the defendant about the fact that he was going to do it that night?
Yes.
Did he tell you what his plan was?
He was planning on giving her E because she wouldn't drink, and
How was he going to do it?
he was going to put it in a Red Bull.
Okay, and just assume it would dissolve or something like
Correct,
that?
yeah.
Okay. So did you see him do that? Can you tell us what you saw?
I don't remember if I actually saw him do that, but I know he told me he did, and then afterwards he said that he had.
Okay. Do you remember seeing him going to the bar?
Yeah. No, I remember him leaving to go to the bar.
Okay, and what did he do at the bar?
I assume that he went and got the Red Bull.
Your Honor, I would
Okay.
object to her assumptions.
Can I follow up? Did you see him come back with a Red Bull?
I saw him come back with the Red Bull.
Okay. And he had left without a Red Bull?
Correct.
Did he give the Red Bull to Nikki?
Yes.
And did Nikki drink it?
Yes.
Okay. And after she drank it, did she make any comment about it, about the taste or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Did you notice a change in her after she drank that Red Bull?
Yes.
How did she change?
She became more sexual with people.
Okay. This is not an easy thing to talk about.
Yeah.
I know. Could you be a little more descriptive and tell us what you saw?
I know I saw her kissing another girl, and then later I saw her
In the VIP
in
room?
the VIP room. All this was in the
Okay.
VIP.
And about how many people were in the VIP room at that time?
I'm going to guess around 20.
Okay.
It was closed for a private party.
Okay. So how did you get in, do you know?
I don't remember what had us gain access.
Okay, but somehow you got in there.
Right.
Okay. Now, that private party or the 20 other people that were in there, what sorts of things were going on?
Well, it was a party for the bouncer, and his girlfriend hired a hooker, and so there were all kinds of various sex acts going on in there.
Okay. And were there any rooms dividing these, or they're just
No.
all out in the open?
All out in the open.
Okay. How big of an area was the VIP room, would you say, compared to, say, this courtroom?
I don't know. There was a pool table in the middle, and probably a section from the wall, maybe to here around it.
Okay, so not huge.
No, nothing
Okay.
huge.
So you didn't have any trouble seeing what was going on in there?
No, no problem.
All right. Once you went in, what happened with your group?
It ended up that, like I said, that the two girls were kissing, and then I ended up kissing Dave, and then also later,
Okay.
I saw Nikki giving him oral sex, and the other girl was standing there,
Okay. And the other girl was who?
Tova.
When you saw Nikki giving Dave oral sex, did that surprise you?
Your Honor, objection, irrelevant, and no foundation and improper question, for reasons the court said earlier.
I can, okay. Based on what you had seen of Nikki on the previous occasions and earlier that night, and her behavior at the club, let me back up a little bit to before you went into the VIP room. Would you describe her behavior at the club as consistent with the other people that were around her in terms of drinking and sort of,
No, she was
different about her?
more like an innocent, like
How so?
she was just, her mannerisms weren't like somebody who was overtly sexual, and she just kind of a quiet girl, just
Your Honor, I'd object, it's not responsive to the question.
Overruled.
I would object then.
Overruled, counsel.
May I make my objection for the record, Your Honor?
Objection, said it was not responsive.
Well, I have another objection. I think it violates your prior ruling.
I disagree, overruled.
Thank you. Note my exception, please.
I know your exception. She was describing her behavior earlier in the evening prior to taking ecstasy. I presume that what she's now going to tell us is how the behavior changed after taking ecstasy. That's admissible. Go ahead.
Now, when you describe her as sort of an innocent...
Your Honor, description is an innocent. I think that's improper. I think there has to be a description of how she was acting. I think this is more an opinion.
I was about to ask what made her say that. Okay, what is it about her that makes you describe her that way? Or the way that she was and was acting?
she was a sweet person, and she was just acting proper like a lady.
Your Honor, same objection. I don't think that describes physical activity. Thank you, Your Honor.
How was she dressed compared to the other girls?
I don't actually remember her attire for that particular
Okay.
night.
Now, at those clubs, for those of us that are not in our 20s anymore, are those dress-up type places? I mean, do you show up in jeans and a T-shirt or?
No, dress code.
Okay, and what's the dress code typically for the girls? Or what's typically worn, let me put it that way?
At that particular time, they were like jeans and like a cute top, or skirts. And
Okay, shorter skirts. So when you were interacting with her during that period, was she acting differently in the VIP room from what you saw in the club before she took the ecstasy?
yes,
Okay, and what was different about her behavior?
again, the overtly sexual, that she was willing to do things that seemed to be out of her character.
Your Honor, objection to testimony regarding character. Ask that the court strike that and ask the jury to disregard.
The jury will not consider the deceased character prior to that evening. And to the extent she's talking about prior character, you will not consider it. You may consider what effect, if any, the drug that evening had on her behavior.
Okay. So how long, let me back up. You saw the oral sex going on and Tova standing there, right? And I can't remember if you talked about this before. Did you engage in physical contact with Nikki?
No.
Okay.
Not that I remember.
Okay. Do you remember if Tova and Nikki exchanged physical contact?
Yes.
Okay, and how so?
I remember seeing them kiss, and while Nikki was performing oral sex, like Tova was stroking her hair or something like that.
Now, that night after you left the Medusa, on the way home, did anything happen between you and the defendant?
No, I don't think we went to the same directions.
Okay.
I think I went back to Tova's house.
Okay. Do you remember discussing him the idea of being in a threesome?
Yes, and I don't remember where that fell.
Okay. In the context of that, do you remember him having any physical contact with you that night?
With me?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember kissing him.
Okay. But you don't remember where that was?
No, it was in the VIP.
Okay. Oh,
I
I'm
remember
sorry.
kissing
Okay.
him.
That was in the VIP room. All right. Now, the next time that you saw the defendant, was that back in the gym?
Yes.
And did he talk to you about what had happened?
I don't remember if it was after that particular event or if it was times later
Okay.
that he said that he ended up having a threesome and that it was with somebody else, and he thought that he would have rather it was with me.
And did you talk to Nikki the next day after it happened? After the night of the first ecstasy?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't remember.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. And this is a very narrow question. Did she tell you how she was feeling at that moment, that next morning?
I remember her saying that she always felt so safe with us.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know.
Now, I think to set a time frame on this, can you remember approximately what year it would have been? Do you remember what you told the police?
I believe it was 03, 04. I don't remember what.
Okay. And was there a third time at the club as well?
I remember hanging out at least 3 times,
Okay.
and I don't remember beyond that.
Okay. The third time, did the same thing happen with the ecstasy?
To my recollection, yes.
Okay. And in that situation, was it the same sort of thing?
Yes.
Where you saw him go to the bar and get the Red Bull and come back?
Yes.
And did you see a similar change in Nikki that night?
Yes. I didn't, she wasn't overtly sexual, but it was more the intimacy amongst friends, you know, the depth of the friendship, not more.
Okay. At some point, did you stop going out to the club with them?
I did, yeah.
Did you still have contact with the defendant at the gym, though?
Yes.
Okay, and what was that like? Can you describe that?
The interruptions of the routine continued, and they seemed like they were getting longer, and they're more like in your face, and it was more flirty, after kissing him, it's like the friendship kind of changed. It got to be, rather than the distant friendship, more like, hey, I should go home.
Were you interested in that?
No.
Now, when you, do you remember how you described Nikki to police when they interviewed you in terms of her sort of self-esteem? issues?
I remember her being not as confident, that she had lower self-esteem.
Okay, what made you think that?
I don't remember the exact thing. I don't remember the exact thing.
Okay, just an impression you had?
Yeah.
Okay. If I could have this one. Ms. Stewart, Ms. Colston's reminded me of a couple of things that I neglected to ask about, and it happened then.
Yes.
Okay, so there were 3 times total that you were aware of.
Yes, but
Okay.
I think the second time was when that happened in the VIP room.
Okay. And did he talk about doing it to you later?
Dropping ecstasy. I don't remember if he snuck some to me. I know that I had taken some.
Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, like at the gym, or even when you were discussing the visit to the club, did he talk about it?
Oh, yeah, that he had done that.
Okay.
And that he was trying to loosen her up for getting her to engage.
Did he feel like it had succeeded?
Yes, well, and another time he had said that she did engage in a threesome with him and obviously another person.
Thank you.
Stewart, my name's David Allen. I'm one of David Pietz's attorney. Just to put this into context, you said this happened back in 2003, probably, right?
Correct.
And at that point, you were 33 years old, correct?
32, 33.
Okay. And do you know if David Pietz was about 24, 25 at that point?
I don't know what his age was.
He was younger than you were, though, wasn't he?
I don't know what his age is.
Okay. So you indicated that you went out to clubs with him and other people on 3 occasions, right?
Yes.
You never went out with him alone, did you?
No.
And you never had sex with Mr. Pietz, did you?
No.
Now, was the first time you met Nicole Pietz, was that the first time you went clubbing with David and the others?
I think so.
Okay. And on that night, you got quite drunk, didn't you?
Indeed.
And you had a really good time.
Yes. I was drunk.
Okay. Now, the second night was the night that all of you went out to the Medusa, right?
Right.
Was that the same place that you went out to the first night?
Yes.
Okay. But the second night, you got to go to the VIP room.
Yes.
And I think you described to the jury that there was sort of what might be described as an orgy going on in there.
Okay.
Is that a fair statement?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if you'd call it an orgy as much as you, I guess. I don't know.
Okay,
that
well,
question really.
there was public sex going on, right?
Right.
Between multiple couples, I take it.
Yes.
And I think you said that the bouncer there was having a birthday party of some sort,
Yes.
and his girlfriend hired a prostitute or a hooker.
Yes.
So was the hooker having sex with different people at the party, as far as you could tell?
Yes.
Okay, but then other people were engaging in sex acts too, right?
Yes. But, I mean, I just remember different pockets and,
Okay. Now, you took ecstasy that evening, right?
yes,
Nobody snuck it into your drink. You took it voluntarily, didn't you?
correct.
Okay. And you never saw David Pietz actually put any ecstasy into Nicole's Red Bulls, did you?
I did not see that,
Okay.
but I remember.
Okay. So let's see what you remember about that evening. Once you took the ecstasy, was that when you were in the back room, in the VIP room, or did you take it before you went back there?
Before, I believe I took it before we even got in.
Okay. And you were there with Nicole, with David Pietz. Was there anybody else in your group?
I know that for sure that there was Tova, and those were that was the prominent group that I remember.
Was there a guy by the name of Nate there?
No,
Was there some talk about Nate going along with you originally?
he was originally supposed to go with us the first time, and like Tova and I met up at Nate's house, but he wouldn't go.
Now,
So-
Tova that we're talking about, she also worked at the gym, right?
Yes,
And in terms of the gym, you didn't work there, you were a member, you worked
Correct.
out there,
right,
right? And Tova, do you know if her last name back then was French?
yes.
And do you know if it's been changed to Vanderveen? Did you hear that, or?
I know that she got married, so I don't know what her new last name is.
Okay. So let's talk about the second time then. Did this all take place in the back room between about 2:30 a.m. and about 4:30 a.m.?
I don't remember.
Was it late at night?
Yes.
Or I should say early in the morning?
Well, we didn't really get to the club until after 10, so
Okay. So can you estimate the hours you were there? How many hours?
my guess is from about 10 or 11, whenever we got there, until probably closing at 4,
Okay. So maybe even 6 hours, yes?
possibly.
Okay. Were you drinking that evening besides taking the ecstasy?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, you said that there was a sex act that went on between David and Nicole, yes?
Correct, yes.
And did this take place in the open where other people could see it?
It was in the VIP room, so it was off to the right corner towards the front.
Okay. And you saw it, right?
Yes,
Okay. And as you have already told us, there were other people engaging in similar sex acts there. Yes?
but not in that corner.
Okay. And you were not engaging in any sex acts?
No.
Okay. And you said that when David and Nicole were so engaged, Tova was stroking Nicole's hair?
Yes,
At some point in time, you saw Tova and Nicole kissing?
yeah, but I don't remember when in that.
Okay. And at some point, you and David kissed?
Yes,
Once, twice, more than once?
I don't know. I just know we kissed
Okay. Where did that take place?
in the VIP.
Was that before or after the sex act between David and Nicole?
I don't know.
Okay. But you remember kissing him?
hmm
No other sexual
No.
going
No
on,
other.
just a kiss?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything between you and Tova?
I don't think that night there was.
Okay. Was there some other night, anything between you and Tova?
Much later.
Okay. Okay. So, and then between Tova and Nicole, you said they were kissing. Were they doing anything else together sexually?
I don't think so. I just remember the kissing. And
Was there dancing going on in the VIP room?
no.
Was there music?
There was music in the club, and the club, that's part of the club. It's the VIP, so yes, you could hear the music.
Okay. And how did you get there that evening? Did you all go in the same car?
I don't remember. No, I think I might have drove because I was at Nate's house before.
Okay. And did you drive home afterwards?
I think I went to Tova's. I honestly, I don't remember.
Okay, this was something that took place about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the next time you spoke to Nikki, was that a couple days later? Or was it the next day?
Maybe. I don't know for certain.
You did talk to Nikki after this, though. I mean, before you went out clubbing again, right?
Yes.
Do you recall Nikki telling you that she had so much fun going out that evening and felt very comfortable? Do you remember
Yes.
her saying that?
Yes.
And she was referring back to the night that you and the others were in the private room at the Medusa.
I don't remember if she said that after that particular night or if it was another night.
Well, do you recall giving a statement to the police in this case?
Yes.
And that would have been a tape-recorded statement.
Yes.
Could you please mark this as a defense exhibit? I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 29. Can I approach? Does that appear to be a transcript of the tape-recorded statement you gave to the police?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to review